Perfect. Thank you so much, Sarah. Uh, all right. Well, let's begin with our agenda. It's a little bit lighter this month than it has been the last few months. So let's get started. And our first item is the 2021 Heritage Kitchener subcommittees, which will be the majority of our discussion today. And Victoria, did you want to provide some opening remarks for us?
Yes, Sam, thank you so much for that. Yeah, as Sam mentioned, we do have a fairly light agenda for this month, given that we don't have any heritage permit applications or heritage impact assessments. So we wanted to take the opportunity to use the time during our meeting today to further discuss the subcommittees, seeing as the Heritage Kitchener Committee has not had subcommittees for quite some time now. So our thought for today is to spend about 15 minutes or so discussing each of the subcommittees, recognizing that decisions about these subcommittees do not necessarily need to be finalized this evening. We just wanted to use this opportunity just to start some discussions on what the work plan for each of these subcommittees might look like. So a memo was circulated along with the agenda package, and the subcommittees that were identified at the August 3rd meeting are listed there, and we're hoping to just use this time to discuss what some of the objectives are of the subcommittees, and determine sort of next steps moving forward. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Sam if you'd like to help lead some of those discussions.
Great, thanks, Victoria. So the way I envision this working is that we'll take each of these subcommittees one at a time. We'll just go through in the order that has been provided in the memo. And just have a conversation about what we as a committee would like to see come out of each of those subcommittees. I will, over the next little bit, I'll follow up with each of the subcommittees so that you can start to work on the logistics of having a subcommittee. So planning when you're going to meet, when you're going to discuss things, who is going to be the sort of de facto leader of the committee. So who's going to make sure that everything gets done according to when you say it is going to get done, or that you actually follow through on things. And that person would also be the primary spokesperson for that subcommittee back to our main committee. Because each of the subcommittees is going to have to report to all of us about the things that are going on, and if any of those subcommittees want to take any action items. So a good example of that would be if our promotion of cultural heritage subcommittee wanted to put together a plaque for, say, the birthplace of Homer Watson, which I know is something Jean wanted to work on. That would be an action that we would bring to the full committee to have a discussion about and sort of finalize that thing. But the subcommittee would be able to do a lot of the background work for that. So that's sort of how I'm foreseeing this moving forward. But let's start by having a discussion as a committee about what we would like to task each of these subcommittees with. So we'll spend our first 15 minutes or so on the subcommittee about designation on affordability. So I'll open it up to the floor to get thoughts from all of you on that committee. Effects of designation on affordability. That one's important. Martin.
Yeah, I thought maybe I would start since I recommended this subcommittee. And it was one of the key reasons why I joined Heritage Committee, to kind of think of those big questions of what are the effects of our the decisions that we might make on broader issues, including affordability. So I think we need to understand the consequences of heritage designation, of districts or properties on affordability as much as possible. Whenever you're affecting the type of and effectively the amount of housing that's allowed or feasible in a particular area, you're going to have some kind of likely consequences for affordability. So I thought as a goal, this committee could look at some of the background research that already exists, and I think there is, like, having begun taking a look. I think there is quite a bit there. So using that to provide background research and analysis on the effect of heritage designations, districts, and/or properties on housing affordabilities, with the idea that it could hopefully provide a fuller picture of the consequences of heritage designation on affordability. We've already had a little bit of debate about that on this committee, and I would expect it to probably come up again. And that way we have a better chance to inform ourselves, the committee, heritage planning staff, and any decisions made regarding heritage property designations or heritage districts. And this is kind of a first for me, being on a committee such as this and a subcommittee. But I would think, if appropriate, perhaps the subcommittee could identify or recommend some kind of action plan based on our findings. But if not that, even just having kind of a body of knowledge that can help inform us as we make decisions, help inform staff and council as they make decisions.
Great, thanks, Martin. So what I'm hearing, and I'm going to try and distill that into sort of an action item, is at the very least you would like to begin with a literature review of what sort of what the effects of designation on affordability is, and then from there potentially move into more of a fuller report that might have potential recommendations. All right, I'm going to write down lit review. Potential report. All right. Other thoughts from members of the committee on this subcommittee on the effects of designation on affordability? Jordan.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I really like this one. I think that there's some considerable potential with unwrapping a lot to do with heritage within this. And I think an important part of it will be that we need to make sure that we don't treat it as kind of an either or situation. And that'll be a key part of kind of how, again, we unwrap heritage and how we hope that heritage is for everyone, but we know that historically it's sometimes not the case, where there's definite barriers and accessibility concerns with all of that. And so I think with this, there can be a lot of really great potential with what comes out of it in terms of figuring out different ways to allow for heritage and allow for designation and allow for preservation in ways that is still very accessible and is still allows for these other concerns about affordability and things like that to coexist with it. So I think that it's there's some really great potential with it.
Great, thanks, Jordan. So definitely making sure that within this research that it's not sort of either or, but making sure that these there's discussion within the final reports that this subcommittee is working on about how these things work together, is what I'm getting from you, Jordan. Martin.
Thank you for your comments, Jordan. And I was just to remind everyone, right now it is so far the people that have expressed interest in this subcommittee are myself and Victoria, not the staff Victoria, but Victoria Manson on the committee. So Jordan or anyone else, if you're interested in joining and bring your perspectives, I think that would be valuable. I think, a lot of us will be coming with different perspectives and maybe expectations. And I think so it's good to have kind of a variety of viewpoints. I think like right off the bat, I think it's important to kind of recognize that we're just kind of starting at this, so not being sure entirely where it would lead, but I think as a general kind of framework, like right from the start, definitely we shouldn't be assuming that it's either or even that it isn't, but just either way we have to I think that's an important point, because I think one of the things that we'll be doing, I think at the beginning, along with a literature review, is figuring out exactly what we're trying to find out. And I think that's part of it, like whether or not it's and it doesn't necessarily need to be an either or. And I think as we're kind of constructing our research, that's something that we can keep in mind.
Great, thanks, Martin. And thank you for reminding me who had signed up for this committee, this subcommittee, because I forgot my piece of paper that had those things in a different binder. So the next question I have, because it sounds like we've got some good goals for the subcommittee now. At this point, do we envision the role of a role for heritage planning staff in this? Will we need any resources that you can think of off the top of your head? I understand that this will obviously be evolving as we go, but just to help Victoria plan for her and Michelle's workload, if there's any ideas about what kind of staff resources or other resources we may need for this, now would be the time to do some brainstorming for that. Jordan.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I'll just jump in again. Just off the top of my head, I think it's great. This subcommittee could potentially do kind of a cross-committee sort of thing, where we could bring in members of other municipal advisory committees to kind of comment on this type of thing. It could be a good kind of practice along those lines.
Yeah, that might be an interesting thing to discuss with the Compass Kitchener Committee, Victoria. I'm not sure what their work plan looks like for the next little bit, but I know I get lots of emails from them looking for this type of thing. So it's a great suggestion.
Yeah, I think that that's a committee that could be potentially looked at as well. And there is a lot of work being done with respect to housing affordability with the city. And so there may be opportunity there. I don't want to commit to anything at this point, just recognizing that these other committees also have workloads and priorities. But I think, yeah, just noting that as an idea for this particular subcommittee is something that we can certainly look at moving forward.
Excellent. So for this subcommittee, because it's very much a research-based committee, in terms of milestones and deadlines and deliverables, I think it's probably a little bit early to be setting these, but is something that perhaps at the first meeting of the subcommittee, those members of that subcommittee can start to think about what kind of timeline they would like to work on, and then they can report that back to our full committee in October to let us know sort of what their first steps are going to be, as well as what kind of timeline they're potentially thinking about for some of those. All right. Is there anything else anyone wants to comment on this subcommittee on the effects of designation on affordability? All right, Jordan, are you interested in being a part of this subcommittee? I realize you were not at our last meeting, so you were not able to sign yourself up for any, but just let us know if you would like to join any of these subcommittees, and we'll make sure you are not discluded.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I will definitely be joining something as kind of the needs arise as we kind of go through these, for sure.
Great. Thank you. All right, let's go to our next subcommittee then, which is on promoting cultural heritage. And I believe there were many of you who were interested in this one. So again, I will open it up for discussion on what some of those goals and objectives are, and what you would like to see come out of the subcommittee on promoting cultural heritage.
Sam, can you tell me who is on this promoting culture? All I thought was just Jean Hoblum signed up. Did anybody else here sign up for this?
Sam, I can quickly step in and provide the subcommittee members. So we have Jean, Ilona, Victoria Mance, and yourself, Councillor Michaud, as
Okay.
the 4 members that signed up for this subcommittee.
Okay. So Jean's not here, and I've only talked to her briefly on this, and I haven't talked to anybody else on this. So I'm just not. I'm not sure where we're headed with this. So if anybody else wants to weigh in, go ahead. I don't think the subcommittees have had a chance to organize. Is what it's a little hard to break this, like start this conversation when we haven't even had a conversation ourselves.
Yeah, so it's a great point, because we, and by we, I mean Victoria, Michelle, and I chatted about it in August, immediately after we created all of these subcommittees. And we thought it would be nice to have the whole committee contribute a little bit to what kinds of things the committee would like to see each of the subcommittees work on. And then for the month of September, the subcommittees can go and start to consolidate things, pick which of the goals they want to work on first, and start to organize themselves at that point.
So I'm clear. So I'm sorry, Sam. So I'm clear on this for timing wise as well, because I think I can speak for Councillor Chapman as well on this, as we're on a lot of committees. So this is putting us on another committee. Not that we don't want to do it, but I need to have an idea of what kind of time frame this is going to take. Are the subcommittees going to be in place of this meeting, or are they on top of this meeting?
So the subcommittees will function in addition to these meetings, because our committee will still need to meet to be able to handle heritage permit applications and HIAs and all of those things. It is important for everyone, councillors and non-councillor members, to be aware that the subcommittees are going to take some additional time, but I want all of you to think about how much time you have to be able to commit to it, and not to necessarily become overwhelmed by the amount of work that you would be doing on the subcommittees. So we're aware that the majority of us are volunteers, and that we're volunteering our time to be a part of Heritage Kitchener, and that the subcommittees are additional hours that you would be spending doing the work of Heritage Kitchener. So be mindful of that as volunteers, and don't overcommit yourselves. If you're not able to meet every time that the subcommittee meets, that's okay. And so we have an understanding that it will add to the workload, but we hope that everyone will be able to manage their time and their well-being as well. So does that help, Councillor Michaud? I know councillors are on lots of committees.
We are, and I have another full-time job too, so my time is really tight. But I am passionate about this part of it, and I know that Jean Hoblum will be a key leader in this, and I'll work with her and Ilona and who else am I on? Robin is Robin on this committee too? No, not Robin.
Victoria.
No,
Victoria Mance. Okay. Oh, Victoria. Okay, great. So yeah, so I'm not going to be the spokesperson on this thing. I will support the committee the best I can, with the other members coming together, and I will do my best to be at the subcommittee meetings.
Great. I appreciate that, and I'm sure the other members of the subcommittee will appreciate that as well. All right, so I know that this is the subcommittee that Jean was very passionate about as well, and she had a number of ideas related to plaques and Jane's walks and things like that. So there's a lot of ideas already, I think, for this subcommittee. And unfortunately, fortunately, I suppose for Jean, she is on vacation right now. So she is not able to be here, which is unfortunate for us. But I think Jean has mentioned her ideas a few times. So perhaps I will open up the floor to anyone who is maybe not on this subcommittee, but who maybe has some ideas for things that this subcommittee might be interested in looking at, just so that they can add those to their conversation when they do meet as a subcommittee. All right. It looks like Jean is definitely the linchpin of this subcommittee. So hopefully, I'm sure Jean is up to it. All right, so I will follow up with Jean and Ilona and Victoria and Councillor Michaud via email, and we'll have a discussion about what the primary goal or objective of this subcommittee will be. And then I will have this subcommittee for sure report back in October about the initial meetings and sort of answer those questions that we're not able to discuss today. Does that work for everyone? All right. It's clearly the Tuesday after a long weekend. Everyone is very quiet. All right, let's look at our third subcommittee then, which I have is decolonizing the heritage process. So thoughts on goals and objectives for this committee.
I'll go. So I think that like last time we had talked about how the City of Kitchener as a corporation is doing some equity and inclusion work as far as figuring out their path forward in decolonization. But I think that one of the things I would like this committee to look at, and obviously we're limited by the Heritage Act as far as how much we can do in terms of changing committee structure, but just thinking about like the types, who is on Heritage Committee, like how are we recruiting folks for this? Like what goes into deciding what heritage is, and is there something, if we look at and do some research in terms of what other communities have done across North America, are there things that we could be doing that are from within this committee's power already to both like work on things like the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action? Like those are not things that have to be done at a citywide level. In fact, like the TRC specifically says, like all of us need to take it on ourselves in our individual lives and actions. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like I know this can get quite big. So I think that like focusing on some very clear, specific things and looking at new approaches to heritage, but like specific projects that have been done, because I know that this can get quite theoretical in terms of figuring out a path forward. And the other thing I just wanted to add is working through and thinking through what things in our community, like, so there, I can say this very confidently as someone who has a history PhD almost, that there are names and plaques and things in our community that will need to be addressed, like Sir John A. Macdonald, that you all maybe haven't heard of yet. But as we go down the rabbit hole of unpacking things, perhaps having a Borden Street when he interned half our community is not a great idea. So starting to do that work, because I think it's really problematic when settlers wait until it becomes a big news story in order to take down a statue or change a street name. Like, those are things that we can actually start doing. And this committee needs to be thinking about that.
Thanks, Robin. So I'm going to try and distill again a little bit some of your comments. So I heard two things. The first is putting together what is effectively a best practices in heritage report to look at what other jurisdictions are doing and how we can do that. And best practices, I would say specifically on decolonization. And then the second thing I heard was putting together a list of specific projects that can be part of this work of decolonizing. So trying to create things that can actually manifest themselves rather than straying into the theoretical, is what I've heard.
Yeah, because it relates to our other work, right? Like, I think about our conversation about highlighting heritage. Like, if we don't have those things and know those things, like folks, we're not going to be highlighting those different histories.
Great, thanks, Robin. David, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. And through the chair, just to kind of build off of what Robin was saying, like revisiting our local history through that lens, but also looking at, making adjustments where we need to, but to place names or, commemorative artifacts, if you want to call it that, but also like looking at honoring members of the Aboriginal community that were prominent in the area, whether it be whole collectives as historical tribes or individuals. I mean, it goes without saying that, you look to the west, the history of Manitoba, there are statues of Louis Riel, who was a prominent member of the Métis community. I mean, that's a very, very high standard, or, a very prominent historical figure, but there are prominent historical figures in the area or groups that really have no mention locally in our street names, in our commemorative plaques, statues, whatever you want to call them. So that's another thing I think to think about as well. So.
Thanks, David. So what I heard, just to make sure I've captured it correctly, is when it comes to that specific project list that Robin had commented on, looking at both the current sort of heritage artifacts that we have and reviewing those, and then also reviewing sort of who or what might be missing from those as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. Who or what or events that might be missing that do have historical significance within that lens and that context of local Aboriginal Indigenous history. Yeah.
Great. Anyone else want to comment on this subcommittee? And Victoria, can you remind us who has currently signed up to be a part of this subcommittee?
Sure. So for the Decolonizing Heritage Subcommittee, Robin, Victoria Mance, and Martin have signed up for this one.
Great, thank you. All right, Jordan.
Sorry. Thanks, Sam. Again, I think that this one will be an important one, an interesting one, especially when you talk about not wanting to go down the theoretical rabbit hole a bit too far with it, and keep it in terms of real definable action items that can be done within within our mandate and within the mandate of the Heritage Act as well. But in general, it is kind of it's a restructuring of our value systems in terms of how we evaluate and value heritage. Too often, it's still very much a great man type of history that especially heritage groups commemorate, and because it's important, because there is a level of importance, there's a level of value, there's a level of significance that goes along with all of that, and with naming things certain ways and defining value in terms of a heritage building according to the connection to a mayor, for example, or something like that, which does definitely carry some significance, but that is a definitive value system that a lot of heritage groups define themselves by. And so this could take on a bit more of a role where we're not just kind of unearthing new stories, it's reevaluating how we value history and heritage and having that reflect in our community. And so I think that will be definitely an important action from that subcommittee.
Thanks, Jordan. I think that was very helpful and useful commentary. I don't really know how to distill that into an action item or a goal, but I think it's useful for us as committee members to be able to pass things like that along to our subcommittee so that it can help them to inform their work as they move forward. All right, thoughts on what possible resources this committee might need, subcommittee might need, or might consider? Recommend that it's probably worthwhile to potentially have a conversation with their, I can't remember what they're specifically they're called, Victoria, but there is a group within the city that is working on indigenization and indigenous issues within the city more generally.
Yeah, there's a reconciliation action working group that's been established. So I imagine that there may be some overlap in work with what this subcommittee looks at and what that larger working group is doing, but there may be some value in making that connection between this subcommittee and the work being done as part of that larger working group.
Great. Other thoughts from committee regarding the decolonizing the heritage process subcommittee? All right, then. Let's move on to our last subcommittee then, which is designations and the Municipal Heritage Register. Victoria, can you let us know who's currently signed up for this one?
Yes, so for this subcommittee, Donnie, Peter, Martin, and Councillor Chapman have signed up to be part of this subcommittee.
All right. Further thoughts or comments for this subcommittee on potential goals? No, a large part of the impetus for this one was to review the list properties that were listed on the Municipal Heritage Register and update and take a look at designations, which is already very specific, but I'm wondering if anyone has anything further that they would like to comment on.
Yeah, I'd like to see the committee come up with a list of, I don't know, I mean, this could be discussed in the committee, but my idea is to come up with a list of 3 to 5 properties that we could agree on to be designated. Because I think it gives something very concrete to work with. And so that would be my proposal.
All right, I'm going to say 3 to 5 properties to pursue designation because my understanding is we can't unilaterally do it. But I like that. I like that it's very concrete. Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Other thoughts? Right, this subcommittee's work plan feels quite straightforward at this point, but I'm sure when you meet, you will discover that it is in fact not. But if there's any other thoughts or thoughts on potential resources that this subcommittee might need, which I'm anticipating will be a lot, Councillor Chapman?
Yeah, no, I think the resources, and I'm sure the list could grow, but things that I would like to see provided to the group are, first of all, the list. I mean, I've got a copy of it, but I don't think necessarily other members do. And also a template of some sort to show us what are the things that we should be looking for to justify designation, if that were to be the case. And both for heritage, cultural heritage designation, as well as just individual property designation.
Just to add on to that as well, yeah, we can certainly provide this subcommittee with the Municipal Heritage Register that contains all of the listed properties within the municipality. And I believe that we do have an evaluation form that we use as well, or that was used when those properties were listed on the Municipal Heritage Register. So that may be something that this subcommittee could look at as well. And that is a resource that can be provided. Another resource that Michelle had indicated in her memo was perhaps having a small session for this particular subcommittee about the different architectural styles and things to look at with respect to prominent attributes that may relate to a particular property. So that's something that we can also look at and consider as something for this subcommittee as well.
Thanks, Victoria. All right, any other thoughts on this subcommittee on designations and the Municipal Heritage Register? Ilona?
Yes, I think I had also signed up for that one.
Sorry about that. If we didn't catch you, I can include your name on there. Yep.
Thanks.
Yes, please let us know if you have not currently been attributed to a subcommittee and would like to be, or vice versa, if you've been named for a subcommittee and you didn't intend to be, please let us know. I'm hoping to send out like subcommittee mini emails in the next couple of days so that you can all get to know each other a little bit and start to coordinate. So please let me know ASAP so that I don't miss you accidentally. All right. Are there any thoughts on subcommittees generally moving forward? Because this is going to be the last time that we talk about subcommittees in the more abstract. Moving forward, there will be standing items on the agenda to allow our subcommittees to provide updates, but it will be much more concrete, our discussions of the subcommittees and their work in the future. So if you have more abstract comments, please make them now. Jordan.
Yes, thank you, Sam. I don't think it's very abstract, it's more of a straightforward question, but are there any other specific aspects to the subcommittees in the wider committee terms of reference that we need to know about, or is it all pretty straightforward as laid out in the agenda, for example?
Victoria, did you want to take this one on?
Sure. Yeah. With respect to the subcommittees, the subcommittees are more informal than the larger Heritage Kitchener Committee. So I think most of what the subcommittees need to be aware of was outlined within the memo provided by staff. But obviously, as the subcommittees meet and work through things, and if anyone has specific questions, please feel free to reach out to me or Michelle directly at any time.
Great questions, Robin. It has been a while since the Heritage Kitchener has had active subcommittees, so we are sort of feeling our way through this creation process, but we're really looking forward to them, and I'm very excited. I'm sure I've said this 100 times already in the last 4 months, but I'm very excited that you are all also excited and are engaging with this process so far. So I'm looking forward to the first updates. All right. Well, if there's nothing else anyone wants to comment on regarding the subcommittees, then I guess we'll end this item 20 minutes early, which is not usual for us to end items early. But we will move on to our second agenda item then, which is about the Community Heritage Ontario membership. And Victoria, I believe you have a couple of comments on this.
Yes, thanks, Sam. So I did provide a memo to the Heritage Kitchener members as part of the agenda package, just providing some background information about Community Heritage Ontario, which is a overarching umbrella organization and advisory body for municipal heritage committees across Ontario. The Community Heritage Ontario organization hosts the Ontario Heritage Conference each year. They provide educational resources, and they do publish a quarterly newsletter. So prior to the pandemic, and when we were meeting in person for our Heritage Kitchener meetings, about 4 times a year, there would be some hard copies of that newsletter provided to Heritage Kitchener members. So the committee has been a member of this organization for several years, but given the ongoing fiscal challenges related to the pandemic, the membership was not renewed for 2021, and there has been some discussion and conversation as to whether we should continue with this membership moving forward. And so I just wanted to just take a few moments during the meeting today just to gauge whether there's committee interest in still being a part of the Community Heritage Ontario membership, and if the resources provided by this organization have been of value to committee members to date. So if committee members have been taking advantage of some of the educational resources that are available on the CHO website and reviewing the quarterly newsletter. So I just wanted to open up just a brief discussion about that.
I can tell you, Victoria, that I do read the newsletter. That's about all I have taken advantage of. I will honestly admit I was not aware of the other resources that were available, but I did read the newsletter.
Victoria, is the newsletter, sorry, David, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Debbie, go ahead.
No, I just had a question. Can one access the newsletter without being a member, and what's the cost of being a member?
I don't believe that the newsletter can be accessed if the Heritage Kitchener Committee is not a member. And in terms of a fee, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it is fairly nominal. I think it's less than $100 for the membership.
Yeah. Oh, Sam, yeah, through the chair, yeah, Victoria, I think I wasn't aware there was a conference associated with the CHO, and I've been involved in some other planning related organizations that run those annual conferences, and there's often a lot of value. Like, I think once we emerge from the pandemic, whenever that's going to be, and things go back to normal and things are more normal and people can physically attend these large gatherings, that there's a lot of value there. If other members of other heritage committees go to this annual conference, you can trade notes, you can meet other people who are facing similar challenges and issues that we may be facing in Kitchener. So I think even just for that alone, there's value in maintaining membership. So, yeah.
Any other thoughts, Councillor Chapman?
Yeah, is this something that has to be approved by council, or can we decide here? And like, do you have it in your budget?
Yeah, so it's not something that needs to be formally approved by council. I just received direction from my director to have this conversation with the committee, and as we look at our budget for the next year, I can take back these comments and we'll make a determination if we have room in the budget to continue on with this membership.
Jordan.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I think my opinion is just based on everything we were just talking about, the subcommittees and trying to get a bit more active with a number of things, that it might be good to have this as a resource, especially if it is somewhat nominal, that it's not too big of a deal. As long as all the members, I guess, know about it and are, I guess, familiar with the potential value there, that we can become a bit more informed heritage-wise.
Thanks, Jordan. Any other comments? All right, well, Victoria, hopefully that gives you enough feedback moving forward. So we will move on to our last item for today, which is status updates. So Victoria, anything we need to be updated on?
I have no updates to share with the committee at this time.
Great, thank you, Victoria. That was easy. All right. That brings us to the end of our meeting. David.
Yeah, sorry, Sam, to interrupt, but just through the chair, this is my last meeting with the committee. I gave Diana Saunderson my resignation a little while back, so I'm sorry to leave, but it's been a pleasure sitting on the committee with everybody, both present and past, and I wish everybody all the best. So.
Thanks, David. We appreciate all the time and effort you have put into the committee over the last few years, and wish you all the best with your future endeavors and everything that will be coming your way in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you on behalf of City Council for your contributions to the committee. Thank you.
Oh, and thank you, Councillor Chapman, and thank you, Sam, and everybody.
All right, well, if there are no other announcements, that is the end of our meeting. So we will adjourn a miraculous 40 minutes early from our half-hour early scheduled meeting. Thank you all so much for being here and contributing to our conversation today. I will be in touch about subcommittees in the coming days, and I will see all of you in October. Enjoy the rest of your Septembers and the rest